The Lich Queen, written by Martin Prestegard, narrated by Jesse Lowther. Aaron stood in respectful silence before his queen. It was safest not to show any emotion except admiration, so he held his head respectfully bowed, his eyes fixed downwards. The Lich Queen did not suffer insolence, and though she favored him now, he knew her whims could turn at a moment's notice. Aaron had no wish to become like the other mindless undead servants that lined the great throne room, so he patiently awaited her command. As he quietly stood there, he couldn't help but notice the faint glow coming from his hands. They were slowly turning ethereal, like the rest of him, and he had long since lost the ability to feel any pain in his extremities. He had dreaded it at first, but now he saw it as a sign of favor, a gift from his queen. He felt stronger than ever before, and knew he was being reshaped into something greater. "Aaron, look at me," his queen commanded. He slowly raised his head and took in the full view of his ruler. Perfection was all that sprang to mind. Her beauty made her almost uncomfortable to gaze upon, as if you were staring at a pale light. She sat with her legs crossed on an ornamented throne, large stone steps leading up to it, raising her above all others in the room. A thin silk dress, leaving little to the imagination, fell invitingly on her sculpted figure. Her long hair cascaded freely around her delicate elven ears. Black lashes framed emerald green eyes on an impossibly perfect face. But as he met her gaze, he saw the truth he knew lurked beneath the facade. All the beauty in the world could not hope to compete with the blackness nested there, and he quickly fixed his eyes on a point just over her shoulder. That she could make him feel this way, even after centuries of living and then being reborn in undeath, unnerved him to no end. Lust and fear warred within him, and for someone who could feel less and less with every passing day, it was an overwhelming sensation. "Bring the prisoner before me. I wish to lay eyes upon this would-be assassin you have caught." Her voice was delicate yet powerful, each word carrying effortlessly to every corner of the vast throne room. "Yes, my queen," he replied, bowing and gesturing for his soldiers to bring him over. Two large skeletal warriors stepped out from the rows of undead lining the entrance to the throne room. Both the warriors had been human kings in life. Their ornamented armor and ancient decorated weapons spoke to their status. Now they willingly served his queen, rulers of the dead, remade into lords eternal. Between them they dragged an elvish figure in filthy and torn armor, depositing him unceremoniously in front of the Lich Queen. Aaron almost pitied the elf. He knew what was coming next. "This is the prisoner, my queen. His name is Aerolith. He claims he was sent here to capture and bring you before the Crystal King to stand trial. Further interrogation revealed he was sent on the behest of the Archmages of the Spire. They wish to bring you to justice." The Lich Queen's eyes had narrowed to thin slits as Aaron spoke. Her words were a quiet whisper to herself, barely audible. "Sister, would you dare be so rash?" "My queen?" Aaron asked, confused, before he could stop himself. Her gaze locked on him again, and this time he couldn't look away. He could feel her in his mind, searching for any hint of disloyalty, laying his thoughts bare. After what felt like an eternity, the sensation stopped, and she looked away as the prisoner interrupted her. "Morellia, please," Aerolith pleaded. "You have known me since we were children. Do not—" "Silence! Do not speak to me of that foolish girl. She is long dead. Only I remain now." The queen's voice was ice cold. "Please, have mercy on my men," Aerolith continued. "They were just following orders." Mercy. There was a short delay as a cold smile split her face. "How heroic of you, to think of your men first. But pointless. Believe me, they do not care any longer." She gestured casually to the left, towards a row of recently deceased elven sentries standing quietly at attention. No, it can't be! You murderer! What have you done to them? Aerolith exclaimed in horror. What I will do to you, what I will do to all others who stand against me. There is no escaping death. It comes for all. Only I am eternal. Only I have the will to do what must be done. The Lich Queen's eyes glowed with an unnatural green light as she spoke. Join me, and you too shall have a taste of true immortality. Never, Aerolith gasped. Wrong choice, Aeron thought to himself. The Lich Queen regarded Aerolith with an intense stare. Hate, jealousy, war, famine, even the destruction of the world itself. These are the horrors I seek to end. And how does my own kin show their appreciation? They send you to kill me. Me! The whole throne room shook with magical backlash as she screamed the word. For a moment her carefully crafted facade fell away, revealing a terrifying sight. Ethereal light shone from her body, and she seemed to grow larger. Her hair flickered around her as if caught in an unnatural wind. Her fingers turned sharp and claw-like. Her dress tore and became ragged pieces of ethereal cloth. It was over as quickly as it had begun. The wind seemed to be sucked back inwards, and all that remained was the perfectly poised queen. Letting out a delicate sigh, she looked down at a horrified Aerolith. I know the darkness that is approaching. I know what my foolish sister is trying to prevent. But unlike her, I see the inevitability of her failure. How can this world's squabbling kingdoms and factions possibly stop what is coming? They war and battle amongst themselves, blind to the truth of their own destruction. There must be unity if we are to prevail, a singular focus on a singular goal. I will ascend beyond this life, beyond all life. I will become what I was always meant to be. Nothing will be able to stand against me. Her eyes narrowed and green specks of light flickered from them as she spoke. What I offer is hope. What I offer is a world at peace. Under my rule, and my rule alone, can this be achieved. You are mad, gasped Aerolith. You will end us. Aeron's fist knocked into the ground before he could finish his sentence. Show respect, he growled. His own anger surprised him. He had acted without thinking, and he wasn't sure if he had stepped out of line. The queen gracefully stood up and descended the stairs from her throne, every motion seamlessly flowing into the next, making it feel as if she simply drifted over the ground. As she passed Aeron, she held out her hand and lightly caressed his cheek in passing. A part of him, the sensible, logical part, knew she was enveloped in layers upon layers of magic, all of them designed to seduce and break even the strongest of wills. Knowing didn't help, though. The touch still made him inhale sharply. It was intoxicating. Had he still been capable, his cheeks would have flushed. She walked to one of the large double doors set into the side of the throne room, and they swung open before her. Bring him, she said. Aeron unceremoniously dragged Aerolith on his knees across the stone floor until he was hunched next to the queen. Outside, in the dark landscape of the ancient necropolis that was her capital, her minions were rebuilding and expanding. It sprawled to the horizon, a dead city to rival any of the living. Countless large plateaus and plazas could be seen dotted around, each of them with row upon row of undead warriors, standing at silent attention. Their heads all turned towards their queen as she stepped out onto the small balcony, and as one, they raised their weapons in a silent salute. Their green glowing eyes created an ethereal shine around each war host. So many, Aerolith gasped. You look upon but a fraction of my great work. Know this, there is no escape for you or my former kin, no point in defiance, no victory to be had. Her words carried a weight that spoke of an uncompromising certainty. We will find a way. We will prevail. "I will never join you." His defiance seemed to give him some newfound strength, and he looked up, attempting to hold her gaze but failing. "I never said it would be your choice," she smiled, bending down and taking Aerolith's jaw in her hands, forcing him to look directly at her. The young warrior was visibly shaking at the effort of resisting her touch. The hint of a smile could be seen on the queen's face at his discomfort. "Do not worry, Aerolith. Soon you will see reason, and you will realize I am your rightful queen. You will fight and die for me, your loyalty unbreakable. This I know to be true." She pulled him closer and lightly kissed his cheek. Aerolith couldn't help but let out a quiet moan of pleasure, but it was fleeting. His expression quickly turned to dread as the flesh on his cheek started to decay. He screamed and thrashed around in pain, but his jaw was stuck in the vice-like grip of the Lich Queen. The decay spread swiftly over his body, fully covering him in moments. Seemingly indifferent to Aerolith's agony, she calmly asked him, "Did you know the strength of a newly risen is tied to their strength in life?" All she got in reply was more screaming. "I think you will make a fine addition to my army." As she finished her sentence, nothing remained of Aerolith but a withered gray husk in armor. She released him and rose, his body collapsing to the ground beneath her. Her hand still had bits of Aerolith's withered skin on it. She wiped it indifferently on Aaron's sleeve and simply said, "Rise." At first nothing happened, but then a faint greenish glow could be seen from what was now Aerolith's empty eye sockets. The body stirred, twitching at first, but then becoming more animated. Its limbs started creaking from the movement of dry sinews and muscle. Slowly it arose, a blank expression on its sunken face. With a silent gesture, the Lich Queen sent him towards his now undead elf soldiers. "May I ask, my queen, did you allow him any sentience?" Aaron asked. "Just enough to fight," she replied. "I understand, my queen." "Do you disagree?" Her eyes had narrowed again. "No, of course not," he hurriedly replied. "I was just surprised you bothered to turn him at all." I felt like being merciful. The smile on her face was anything but. This is the conclusion of The Lich Queen, written by Martin Prestigard, narrated by Jesse Lowther. Thank you for listening.